welcome back to my channel. I'm out of town, but I still wanted to, give a video for today. I had said that I would record on this channel every other day. And although I'm out of town and the lighting is horrible, just bear with me because I just wanted to be consistent with my channel. So in my last video, I was discussing how Timothy and I had consummated our relationship and how we had got to the point that we had said we were just going to chill because things had become so hot in the institution. Now, not hot, just concerning us, our situation, but hot because there were so many females that were having relationships at the time with, prisoners, including a lieutenant who was having a relationship with a prisoner who was working closely with her. And so I didn't like being, the center of attention and, in the midst of all of that heat. So I had told Timmy, let's chill for a while. Let's just, go our separate ways for a little bit. And, once everything died down, just go from there. So, during this time, I had really just started to just really get into my thoughts. And it was like, here I am working in a male's prison. I have a husband. And I was asking myself, am I really, am I being realistic with myself about the situation? Can I really be in a relationship with this guy that I didn't know if he was coming home or not? Could I be in a relationship with him and it worked? So I had decided that, I just started feeling bad. And I was like, I just wanted to be over. I didn't want, everything that I had worked so hard for to just be gone like that because I couldn't contain my feelings or he couldn't contain his feelings, So, he was heartbroken, as you can imagine, and he did everything he could to try to get me back. He would walk past the glass, with the puppy dog eyes, thinking that was going to work. Or, he would, just do little things to try to get me back. And when he saw nothing work, he just became so angry. And I guess he felt like, he couldn't understand why I was carrying it that way with him. After everything we had been through at that point, I guess he just felt betrayed by me. And I can understand that. So, it was a thing where after I thought, I really loved him, and I didn't know how, although I was trying to be so hard and being so firm with him, when he came to me one day and was like, can I talk to you? And I was like, what is it? What do you want from me? He just was like, all I ever wanted to do was just love you, and he just was crying and everything. I just felt so bad. And, I'm a sucker, so I'm a sucker for the man I love. So I ended up going back to him. And, so I ended up going on my 4 days off. And, everything that happens in the dark eventually comes to light. But when I'm gonna back up a little bit because I think I need to share, this information with y'all. So, okay, the way everything was set up, we worked 7 days, was off 4 days, worked 7 days, was off 3 days, and we were on teams, A, B, or C. I was on A team, and it was B team and C team or whatever. And I know A team had their own supervisor, a lieutenant, and B team had a lieutenant. And so the lieutenant that I had for my team, me and him were really close. We consider ourselves like father and daughter, and I used to call him my father. And this was even before, Timmy and I became close, before he knew about me and Timmy. And, he had already had a relationship with Timmy because his one of his best friends was Timmy's relative. So he knew Timmy ever since he was a little boy. And so they already had a close relationship. And so when he, as soon as it became obvious that Timmy and I were together, he used to give us advice about, being in, how to sustain our relationship. He would say things to him like, you need to make sure that she's good at all times. You need to, really protect her and love her the best way you know how. You went this far, just make sure, you give her all of you, don't, hurt or anything like that. And he used to tell me things like, if your man is hard, it's your job to get it down and things like that. Even if y'all have to screw multiple times a day. Like, it was that type of thing with him. And so, he was from the street. So I guess he just was looking at things from a realistic point of view. And a lot of people don't like to do that when it comes to, the situation in jail. Everybody has this idealistic view of what it's supposed to be, but you don't realize what it is until you actually work there and find yourself in that position, and then you'll understand where I'm coming from. Now, the other supervisor, he couldn't stand my guts. That was B-team supervisor. He hated me because when I first came to the jail, he made all these advances towards me that I did not, take him up on. It was like ever since then, I was just on his list. And, the females that were on his team would tell him, oh, their lieutenant, they so close. He give her the easy poses and everything. So he used to make my life a living hell. All right. And so he was also close with Timmy. He used to date his aunt when Timmy was young. So he knew Timmy from a young boy too. So he around there, doing things with Timmy, doing all these favors for him, bringing food from uptown to him, even calling him Timmy. When we didn't even call prisoners by their first name or anything, he calling him Timmy. Like his name Timothy, but he calling him, this baby named Timmy and all this stuff. So I'm like, okay, he loving on him the way I'm loving on him. So, what's his problem with it? Because I said that because he ended up being the one who wrote the report for me to be fired, right? So I just wanted to share that part before I get back, to just give a little setup. All right, so I went off on my 4 days, and when I came back, I'm walking through the Sally Port to my post, and so it's these females that's in the Sally Port with me. And so this one girl, she started talking all loud and everything. She like, yeah, these bitches around here fucking inmates and all this stuff, and this shit about to hit the fan. So I'm like, the way she kept emphasizing words behind me, it's like, okay, is she talking about me? Like, yeah, she talking about me or whatever. So when I go up the compound, when I got closer to my post, I saw Timothy, and he was like, baby, a lot of things happened while you were gone. Just watch your back or whatever. I can't really talk to you right now because I know everybody is watching us, but watch your back. So I went on to my post, and after that post was over, I had to go, somewhere else. And so when I'm on my way, I see the B-team lieutenant, and he all smiling, and I'm like, how you doing today, and all this kind of stuff. And I just knew it was so phony because he never said nothing to me. He never even smiled when it came to me. He hated my guts. So that made me suspicious. And then it was like, when I went in the shack or whatever, it was just like this quietness that just wasn't normal for my team. It was just so out of place. And so I'm like, what is going on here? So I get this call to tell me to go to the major's office. So I go to the shack, and the guy that's in there, he was salty with me because Timmy had pulled him up before after he heard him call me a bitch one time. And he made him apologize to me or whatever. He was a whore. So, Timmy just was like, look, you gonna apologize to her. He did it. So, but he stayed salty after that with me. So, he was like, yeah, they want to see you in the major's office. Yeah, you in trouble and all this stuff. So, he was all glad and everything. So when I got down there, the major was like, the warden would like to see you. And so I'm playing it off. I'm like, oh, God, the warden. I mean, what could he possibly want? So I'm thinking Timmy, but then I'm thinking, it could have been my ex, because, you know, I told you how he was an addict and he was doing bits here and there and stuff. And I'm like, okay, maybe they found out about that. So I didn't really know what it was. So when I got to the warden's office, they told me to have a seat. And I sat there for like a half an hour. But while I was sitting there, one of my African friends, who I was really close to, I had been to functions with his family, everything, you know, he came in, he was like, hey, you know, what you doing here, whatever. And I was like, I don't know. I mean, Major want me down here to see the ward. And he was like, oh, okay, I hope everything, you know, work out or what, everything good. I was like, oh, yeah, me too, you know. So come to find out, you know, when I go back there to see the warden, he's, you know, introduced himself, and he was like, yeah, you know, word is that you're having a relationship with a prisoner named Timothy such and such, you know. So I'm like, nah, that's not true. He was like, okay. So what I need you to do is go and write this man a record, you know, and give me your statement or whatever. So I was like, okay, I can do that. So I go out there, my heart beating all out my body. I'm like, oh Lord, what is going to happen? And so when I go back in, he read it, and he's like, oh, okay. So this is your story, that you're not in a relationship with him? And I was like, no. And he was like, okay, so, all right, so I'm just going to pass this over to you. So he passed me the little paper that was written by the B team lieutenant, asking that I be fired. You know, how he was informed that I was having a relationship with a prisoner and all this kind of stuff. And then he gave me some phone records, right? So he was like, is that your phone number? So I'm thinking I'm slick and everything. I'm like, that used to be my phone number, but I have a different number now. Yeah, that used to be my number. Why? You know, because as you see, this is him calling this number on all these different occasions. So I was like, you know, I'm thinking in my head, oh, what can I say? So I was like, okay, well, I'm just going to be honest, sir. You know, him and I have a daughter together. Bruh. Because he had a daughter that had the same name as my daughter, and they were like a year or two apart. So I'm like, okay, we have a daughter together, and also I know I was wrong. So I was so wrong that I didn't let nobody know. You know, so he was like, oh, okay, so he was calling your daughter? I was like, yeah, he was calling my daughter. I mean, that's her father, so yeah, you know, yeah. So then he was like, oh, okay. He was like, okay, but we also have, like, you know, the recordings of the conversation, and in my mind, I'm thinking, shit, me and Timmy that had moments where we was getting it in on the phone and everything. I was like, oh, they done heard all this stuff, so I'm like stuck. You know, and I'm like, oh my God. So I'm sitting there just looking stupid, you know, and he like, yeah, officer, I just need for you to just, you know, put that badge on this table and give me that ID. You know, he said, I'm not going to be, you know, totally hard. I'm going to let you, you know, give me your letter of resignation, because, you know, other than that, you're going to be fired. You know, so I'm sitting there and I'm crying and everything and all upset. And so he got to rub it in now, and he like, yeah, I know you married, so what you going to tell your husband? So I'm like, no, I hadn't even thought about that. So I'm like, no, I was so upset. I didn't even want to talk to him no more. You know, so after that, he just bid me a good day and set me on my way. So I go out to the phone that's out in the hallway, and I call down to the shack because I left some of my belongings down there. And so my girlfriend, she said, oh, I'll bring everything up to you. So when she came, she was like, oh, I'm not going to say anything. You ain't got to worry about me saying nothing, you know, because her boyfriend was, you know, best friends with my husband's brother. They had grew up with my husband and his brother, so they knew him very well. So what she did, she waited till she got a moment. She called out on the other line, called her boyfriend, who called my husband at the time, his brother, and his brother called him. And by the time I got home, you know, stuff had hit the fan. You know, he had already knew everything that occurred by the time I got there. And so, he had called himself leaving and everything. He had packed his bags and all this stuff, and he was like, yeah, the phone call makes sense now because Timmy had called one time when he was there. Remember, he only used to come on the weekends, but this time he was there during the weekday, and he had answered the phone when Timmy called, and I just, played it off like it was the wrong number, whatever, and he believed me. But now he was like, yeah, all of this is making sense now. And so, he had left for a couple of days or whatever. And while he was gone, I had received a phone call from Timmy's sister with Timmy on the three-way. He was, asking if I was okay and all this stuff, talking about how they had tore his cell apart and all this stuff, looking for letters and pictures of me and things like that. If they didn't find anything, he was like, I don't know how this is going to play out, And so, after our conversation, it just became a thing where I just became bitter towards him because I was like, I felt like, he was supposed to protect me, but I felt like he had put me in this situation because he couldn't contain his emotions, letting everybody know what was going on and all this kind of stuff. And so I just became really bitter. And at that point, I was like, look, I'm just done with him. And his sister would call me and be like, Lisa, you really need to talk to him. He is going through it. I don't know what he going to do with himself. I don't know if he going to commit suicide. I don't know what's up. You need to talk to him because he is really going through it right now. And so I had made up in my mind, I was done with it. I was going to make it work with the husband I was with and everything. And then 10 years passed, and Timmy had explained to me, after we got back together that, how they had got him, he had went on admin for a little while. And then when he came off, he was saying how he still had officers still trying to get at him and everything since I wasn't there. And then when they eventually put him back in general population after a couple of months, he was saying that they had called him to property, to go to property. And he was like, well, I ain't ordered nothing. What I'm going to property for? And so when he got up there, he said the 13 was at the end of the hallway. And he walking up the hill and he turned around, the 13 behind him and everything. So by the time he got up to property, they had him surrounded and everything, had the camera all in his face and everything. I guess they thought he was going to perform. But they slapped the cuff on him and threw him on a bus and shipped him straight out to where he is now. And so Timmy was saying that he had saw this visitor that he thought was me, because mind you, he hadn't seen me in so long. And he thought this girl was me. And he had pulled the guy up, at the end of the visit and everything, talking about, was that Lisa? Because he was talking about he was going to deal with the guy and all this stuff, because he thought that I was coming to see him. But apparently this girl looked just like me because one of the CEOs there was like, yeah, you used to go down North Branch. Now you coming up here or whatever. And I was like, man, I don't even know where no North Branch is. So apparently the girl looked a lot like me, even for Timmy to think that it was me. I'm the woman he loved, and he is mistaking this woman for me. So she must really look a lot like me, So I'm just going to stop here. And I just wanted to say that, I'm sharing these things just as a build up to, him coming home, just so y'all have the backstory of us or whatever. Although I'm so happy that, I was blessed with a man who worships the ground I walk on, cherish me and everything, love me unconditionally. I don't want people to think that, it's a thing that I'm on here bragging about, what I did, at the jail and everything. Because, really, that's, nothing to be proud of, especially when it was something that I worked so hard for to get to that position. And then for it just to end the way it ended. But I just wanted, just to, share this with y'all to let y'all know that there are things that go on in prison. And it's a society within a society with real human beings that are working there. You had guys that was bringing in drugs, people bringing in street knives, people bringing in food from uptown for their favorite prisoners. There was a sergeant who had a whole cabinet full of goodies because he was doing favors, but he was charging people from their commissary. I want a box of Debbie's. I want this, I want this, I want this. So he was doing that, and just like, you know, the lieutenants, they did things as well. So it was like, although we want it to be an ideal situation, it's not, because you're dealing with human nature, and when you have that, you know, it's subject to be flaws. So I just wanted to share that with y'all, leave y'all with that. If you like this video, give me a thumbs up, give me a comment. You know, if you have a question, I wouldn't mind answering it. And subscribe to my channel so you know when I'm uploading the next video. I'll try to think of something else I could talk to you all about, you know, on the next video. So until then, I'll talk to y'all later. Bye-bye.